Well, howdy, folks. K-Dog back here. It's time for another DVD and Blu Ray update. Quite a convenient time because I just got a notice today that somebody was trying to use my debit card for some unauthorized purchases. So right now there's a halt on me buying new things altogether. But the card company informed me that some fraudulent activity has been going on. They put a stop on the card, so they should be sending me a new card. So thankfully I stopped something before it was going to continue. But however, I did manage to get some DVDs and Blu-rays. And got quite a stack here, so let's roll the intro and we'll go. Well, it's time we take a look at some of these titles here. I got a lot of titles, a lot of brand new releases, a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that I've been meaning to get, but never had the interest at the time to get. So we'll go on through here. I think we'll start from the top, the way I got them, and yeah, I just got them piled here. But anyway, Wolf of Wall Street. Never seen this, but trust it's being. I've heard good things. I like Leo. I like Scorsese. So yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Have yet to watch this actually, and I am kind of looking forward to it. I should have some time to watch it. So yeah. Next up, from Sony Pictures. Starring Jim Caviezel, Michael Chiklis, Alexander Ludwig, and Laura Dern, When the Game Stands Tall. Based on a true story. Trying to think, and this is directed by Thomas Carter, who directed the film Coach Carter with Samuel L. Jackson, which I got to meet the real Coach Carter. That was really neat, and this was that director's latest film, When the Game Stands Tall. About this is about a famous high school football coach and De La Salle High School Spartans and their victory. It's a very inspiring movie. Matter of fact, it's from Sony. It's from Sony's Christian films label, Affirmed Films. So yeah, it's worth watching. Next up, I had never seen this film, but I know it's gathered a large following over the years, and it's this was Bryan Singer's movie before he directed X-Men. I think it was just before, and well, I think he did Apt Pupil after this, but it's The Usual Suspects. And yeah, you got an all-star cast there. You got Stephen Baldwin, Gabriel Byrne, Kevin Spacey, Susie Ames, Benicio del Toro, Kevin Pollak, Pete Postlethwaite, and yeah. Next up, I got this on DVD. I'm not sure if this is out on Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure it is, but I couldn't find it. I got it at FYE on DVD, and of course it's the classic rock documentary. This is Spinal Tap. Just a funny movie, and it's just so silly and over the top. Deservingly so, because a lot of these rock bands, especially the 70s, they were exactly like this. So yeah, this is Spinal Tap. Now the next two are upgrades and Yeah, just pure. One's a pure upgrade and a new edition. Actually, they both are, because I have these on DVD, but I have them in different cuts. What am I talking about? Superman the movie and Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. Now, there is some a little bit of explaining. The version I have on DVD of Superman the movie is a special edition cut that was released in the late 1990s. But it came out, I forget why it came out, if it was for the anniversary of the film, the 20th anniversary of the film, or Superman's birthday, whatever it was. But it was that version was released in a full uncut form, and it was re-rated PG-13, while this one is the original theatrical release with the PG cut. And of course, it has it has the same bonus features as that DVD, about the making of documentary and things like that. But it's an entirely different cut of the movie. That's what's really surprised me on it. Now, Superman 2, I have the version I have on DVD, the theatrical version, the one that was supposedly directed by Richard Lester. When, in all honesty, Richard Lester only directed 30% of Superman 2. Richard Donner directed the majority of it, but the Salkinds were so crooked and shady that when they fired Richard Donner, they took his name off the picture and put on Richard Lester. Now, what they did was, in order for Richard Lester to get full director's credit, he had to direct over a certain amount of the film. So what he ended up doing was going back and redirecting some scenes with him as director, as opposed to Richard Donner. But however, Richard Donner has came out in the press and saying that's not entirely true, Richard Lester, because you are using footage from my cut, because he said there's my cameo in a certain scene. So here is the official Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. Now, another disclaimer: if you get this or you have this, this is not one. This is only partial true about the Richard Donner cut. Unfortunately, and unfortunately that in that way is that he had to pull from Richard Lester's version to make this a coherent story. And it says that it clearly says that in the film that this is what it would have been like had Richard Donner directed it. However, they had to borrow from the other version to complete the movie, because Richard Donner only got to direct the majority of the film, but then was fired. Now, next up, I already have this. Matter of fact, this edition is the same disc, no new features or anything like that, but I thought I couldn't resist the urge of the case. The Target exclusive metal pack to Super 8. And of course it has this gorgeous pop out metal pack. I said it was a steel book. I'm sorry, this is a metal pack. There's a big difference. The spines are a little bit different. But yeah, I rubber cement the back on this because I didn't want that to come off. Let me just peel that off and see if I can put it back on later. See, there's the back, which was also used for a poster, but I believe it was in the UK or Australia where they used that. Maybe here in the United States, I'm not entirely sure. And of course, on the inside we have this wonderful picture from the movie showing the train crash. How about that? There may be a glare there, but I'm sorry. But yeah, the disc content is the same. The only real difference being, couldn't get back on. The real difference being that the movie is now available on streaming for ultraviolet. Yeah, for the ultraviolet, because when the first Blu-ray originally came out, which they also reissued, I'll tell more about that later. They now have it available to where you can watch the movie streaming on the ultraviolet website. But at the time, ultraviolet had just come out, and they only were collecting certain movies. Unfortunately, Super 8 was not one of them until Paramount agreed to work on, go through Warner Brothers to have ultraviolet, because that's who owns ultraviolet, is Warner Brothers. They're the ones that started that whole thing, and so they got the other studios and blah 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 blah. However, and Super 8 was only available for the digital copy only, which you put the DVD disc in and you type the code in, and it would send the movie to your hard drive, and that was the only way you could watch it if you wanted to stream it. Now, there's another edition where they reissued Super 8 with just, I think they use the same picture, but it's just a plain Blu-ray cover. The back is the same as the original, but I think I got the cooler edition of that because it looks like, the Kodak film box. You know what I'm talking about. Next up, because I know I need to move this along, we got a lot to go through. Next up, I got Silence of the Lambs. I'm not that big of a horror guy, but there was just something about this that I really wanted to watch it. And, it's not so much a horror movie as it is performance and dramatic crime. And even though it is a horror film, it legitimately is, and there's very disturbing scenes. I mean, very, Hannibal Lecter, shot with the mask, and, when the famous line, he says, "I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti," and he does that, thing. And next up, I got Lucy from Luc Besson, I think that's how you pronounce his name, from The Fifth Element. I enjoyed the action sequences in this movie, but I could have cared less about the whole scientific bullcrap about evolution, and that wasn't necessary, because we all know evolution's stupid. We all know evolution is just, it's a fake, it's something that a man just pulled out of his head. But yeah, it's other than that, it's a decent action flick. I think Scarlett Johansson, I think she does a really good job. Universal Bare Bones disc. She does a really good job doing the action sequences. However, I did also had a little problem about her being kind of before the drug goes into her. I had a problem with the transition from, I'm just this average, whatever, white American girl, to all of a sudden, I'm a freaking genius. But other than that, the action sequences were cool, the visuals were cool. Of course, the effects work was done by Industrial Light and Magic, who I'm a big fan of, and it shows some really cool shots of her, using that 100% brain compatible, use of the brain, and able to change her shape and change her entire structure. Next up, I never owned this. A lot of kids, a lot of guys my age grew up with this movie. I did not until just recently, and it's Damon Wayans' A Major Pain, and I can kind of see why. I mean, it's got stupid toilet humor, and I do remember watching it on TV, and I thought it was okay at the time, but I see why a lot of the guys my age, they grew up watching this and they thought it's just hilarious. Just the way Damon Wayans talks in this movie. My name is Major Pain. Now this next one, I don't remember if I showed it off, but I got this at Walmart for a decent price, and it's the classic World War II movie, Midway, starring Charlton Heston and Henry Fonda, produced by Walter Mirisch, which I think is a little strange for Walter Mirisch because he was usually with United Artists. This is with Universal. So of course there's a lot of famous people in here. Charlton Heston, Henry Fonda, James Coburn, Glenn Ford, Hal Holbrook, Toshiro Mifune, Robert Mitchum, Cliff Robertson, Robert Wagner, and that's just to name a few. But yeah, 1976 release from Universal Pictures. Of course, it's a classic film. Who's the director on that? Jack Schmidt, with music by John Williams. So, can't go wrong there. Next up, I got this at Best Buy, and this has always been on the bargain bin ever since it came out on DVD. And matter of fact, Sony has given the license over to Mill Creek Crawl, which was a cheesy little sci-fi flick from the 1980s, starring a young Liam Neeson, Ken Marshall, Freddie Jones, Francesca Annis. This cheesy sci-fi movie from the 80s. Next up, I got Clint Eastwood film. I think this is one of his earlier productions when he first started producing movies. Trying to look, when was this made? 1968. Released by United Artists. It's Hang 'Em High, directed by Ted Post, who would go on to direct Clint in the Dirty Harry series. So yeah. Now this next one I got this at a Dollar General. Of course, it's one of these 4-pack movie collections, and it's from New Line Cinema or Warner Brothers New Line Cinema, and it's the Critters collection, which are cheesy rip-offs of Gremlins, even though the director has said for the first Gremlins that they had the Gremlins idea before, or Critters idea before Gremlins ever came out. So but yeah, it is kind of a rip-off. But and what amazes me is that they got by with a lot of stuff for being PG-13 movies. Critters is just an average, thriller. Kind of, if you watch Gremlins, Critters. It's kind of it's in that same vein. Critters 2 is a continuation, just a continuation of that whole thing. And what surprised me about this movie is it got a PG-13 rating, is that there's nudity in it. And it's semi-sexual, but yet it got by with a PG-13, and it doesn't make any sense. Critters 3, which had the feature film debut of Leonardo DiCaprio, and I don't know how old he was in this film, but he was probably, I'm guessing he was probably around within 11 or 12 years old. And this is, you can tell the series was running out of ideas, and because like Critters 1 and Critters 2 was just a continuation of the story, while Critters 3 is, okay, let's take them and put them in this, let's take the critters and put them someplace where they've never been before in the first two movies, which is in the city, and then finally the all series killer in space. So yeah, these are they're just goofy, cheesy thriller movies. That's they're comedy and slash monster movie, and it's just a funny movie. It's fun to watch. Next up, I got the new David Fincher release, starring Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike, along with Neil Patrick Harris and Tyler Perry. Gone Girl. Now, this movie, I watched it. I was really getting into this. But this is just a sick and twisted movie. And I'm not going to say what it's about because that would ruin the whole thing. Well, I can tell you this much. It's about Ben Affleck losing one day his wife goes missing. And he doesn't know where she's gone, and eventually the people in the town, they start pointing to him that he killed her, and it's just turning nasty and looking really bad for him. And of course they find out that he's very unfaithful to his wife. He was downright abusive at times, but as the story goes on, more and more is uncovered. That's all I'm going to say, because if I tell you any more, or you may have heard the spoilers, that's what goes on. But yeah, it comes in this nice little packaging, kind of similar to what they do with The Social Network. But yeah, it comes in this nice booklet. And of course there's an advertisement for the books. Like, Amy, Have You Met Libby and Camille? Which is a continuation of this series. Yeah, there's the front of that. And it also comes with this little storybook called Amazing Amy Tattletale. By Rand and Mary Beth Elliott. Two psychologists who are parents just like you. Well, you gotta watch. This came with the Blu Ray set, so if you saw the movie in the theater, you would know what this movie's about, what this is all about. And it's kind of creepy if you think about it. That after seeing the movie and know that they did this, it's kind of creepy. So, but yeah, it's well worth the watch, I would think, and I really enjoyed it. Some would say, "Oh, it's a chick flick. It's a chick flick." No, get that chick flick crap out of your head, because this is definitely a movie made for adults and not just chicks. Even though the books are kind of centered towards a female audience, the movie is not. Or at least I didn't feel that way. Next up on Blu-ray, I've got got some catalog titles. The Fugitive, of course, I know gets aired on television all the time, but you got to be careful with The Fugitive on Blu-ray because there's two different editions. There's this edition, then there's another one that has the original home video poster or cover art on it. This is the version that you really want to have because the transfer is so much better on this one than it is on the other one. Matter of fact, even the audio is done in DTS while the other one is just standard Dolby Digital. So do be careful with that. Next up is G.I. Jane from Hollywood Pictures, directed by Ridley Scott. This one's kind of forgotten about, Ridley Scott movie. Yeah, it's just one that's kind of forgotten about. I keep wanting to think that Jerry Bruckheimer was behind this one, and he's not. This was just Ridley Scott. I don't know why, because I guess I'm thinking because it came out around the same time as Con Air did. So, yeah, I think it's a little... It kind of reminds me of a Jerry Bruckheimer movie, but it's not. It's Ridley Scott. Next up, I got Fargo from Joel and Ethan Coen. Got this at Best Buy. And we'll keep on going here. Next up, I got The Equalizer, starring Denzel Washington. Fantastic action movie. If you like anything Denzel does, get this. Watch. If you for some friends of mine basically described it, if you like Man on Fire, this is like a good companion piece. No joke. But I would say even more cruel than Man on Fire. But yeah, definitely get this one. Next up, I added to my Big Bang Theory Blu-rays. Unfortunately, they're getting harder and harder to find. I keep finding them on DVD. And of course, they're going for a pretty hefty price now. I got this while it was on sale for $20. Now this is retailing at about $40. Because I got it during a sale, and two, this is a pretty popular show. So it's you know, the more popular the TV show, the more expensive the home videos and DVDs are going to be. Next up, I just watched this documentary, and it's a fantastic documentary. It's called Waking Sleeping Beauty, and what this is about what we would call the Disney Renaissance, where from 1984 to 1994, it talks about the Walt Disney feature animation department and all the changes that they went through, and it's a fantastic documentary directed by the producer of many of those films, Don Hahn. And it talks about how the 9 old men were leaving, and they brought on several new guys from Cal Arts, which Disney was fully supporting at the time. And these were new guys. They came in with a lot of... They came in with some very fresh ideas, but the studio was not looking into being creative. They were looking into making money. That's what it was all about. And they said that it eventually got to the point where that feature animation, especially for Disney, was becoming a joke, while all these other animators and companies were making movies, animated movies, and they were success. But then when Disney put out one, tanks. And it talks about how they were try to rekindle the Disney legacy in animation from 1984, when it all started. That the 9 old men were leaving. They had just made They made. Well, they didn't make it, but they made a film called The Black Cauldron, which was all the new guys, and they came in. They made this movie called The Black Cauldron, and it was years in the making, and then Jeffrey Katzenberg comes on board and says, "This is horrible." And it was really just how they were able to come up with Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, Aladdin, and it talks about that whole story. It goes up to The Lion King and the success of The Lion King. Unfortunately, I wish that we could have gone on a little bit further, because the Disney Renaissance didn't just end with The Lion King. The Lion King was its peak, but they also talk about, people getting upset, getting fired, leaving the company, and it's a well-made documentary. If you find that, it's called Waking Sleeping Beauty, find that, pick it up. It's worth a watch. If you are so much as a fan of Disney movies, watch it. Next up, got some more catalog stuff. Cobra with Sly Stallone. And of course, upgraded my copy of the Lethal Weapon movies. Got them all in this nice, neat little package, in which I hate the stacking cases, but this of course has all 4 movies in one nice package with bonus content, plus has the theatrical cut to Lethal Weapon 2, while the other version I had of the film is a director's cut, so it's a different version. Next up is Fury. I have yet to watch this. I've heard very good things about this. Brad Pitt movie, and also has Shia LaBeouf, Logan Lerman, Michael Pena, Jason Isaacs, and Scott Eastwood. So yeah. Then of course had to add to my Alien collection. I don't know if I'm going to continue any further, but here's Alien 3. Yeah, I don't know if I will, because Alien 3 is kind of regarded as one of the worst in the series, and then of course I'm not talking about Alien Insurrection and the Alien versus Predator movies. I'm not even going to go into those. Next up, another Ridley Scott movie with Denzel Washington, American Gangster. And I have yet to watch this one as well. Also has Russell Crowe. Directed by Ridley Scott. It has 2 different cuts of the movie. There's a 3-hour cut, and then there's a 2.5-hour cut. This is also trying to think. It's written by the guy who wrote Schindler's List and directed Searching for Bobby Fischer, but it's also produced by the guy who did Goodfellas and Casino, and so it's kind of within that same, talk about crime and organized crime. Alright, moving along here. Picked up Dune, another catalog title, a David Lynch film. You know, kind of a well-known, wasn't really popular, but a well-known sci-fi movie from the 1980s with David Lynch. Also has some puppetry from Carlo Rambaldi. If you don't know who that is, E.T. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, featuring Mr. and Mrs. Brad Pitt. Matter of fact, this is the movie that they met on, and they fell madly in love with each other. It's a Doug Liman film. Of course, folks, here's another. I'm going to go off on here. If you see these in any CDs or DVDs or Blu-rays, pull them out. These are little security tabs. These are the things that make the alarm go off when you walk out of the store without properly scanning them. So when you get home, pull these out. Little security tabs. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Got this at Walmart for $5, so I don't think it's that too bad of a deal. Next up, I had to order this online, unfortunately, because all the stores carrying this title only had the DVD version only. And it is Little House on the Prairie Season 4. Came out January the 20th. And of course, these are the new digitally remastered versions. And they're nice deluxe packaging. And there's some nice featurettes about talking about making the show. And it's with some of the surviving cast and crew. But yeah, unfortunately, I had to go to Amazon to get the Blu-ray, and that was kind of a last resort because I was almost considering getting the DVD, but I thought, nah, I'll just Amazon. My thing is, I want to go to the store and pick this up, put it in my hands that day, take it home and watch it. Unfortunately, Walmart, Target, they decided not to carry this for some reason. And last but not least, be closing with Criminal Minds. I have managed to pick up seasons 1, 2, 4, and 5. Season 3 disappeared off the shelf. Here's what's interesting. Seasons 1 and 2, I go in this week, actually. Seasons 1 and 2 are sitting on the shelf, along with the rest of the seasons to Criminal Minds. But I only had the money to get 2 of them. Seasons 1 and 2. And I thought, okay, I'll wait till payday, come back, get the other, pick up 2 more, and then go from there. I go to Walmart. They totally reorganized the television shelf. They pull off the majority of Criminal Minds DVDs. Except for seasons 1 and 2. To get you started, I guess. Then they had season 4 and 5 in a 2-pack for $19.99 alone, which I thought was a decent deal, but yeah, I'm missing season 3. And plus, I may have wanted to get some of the other seasons. All of a sudden, they're pulled off of the shelf. But luckily, FYE is carrying the surviving seasons, and what's really kind of upsetting is that you're going from this nice packaging to this. Plus, my brother has collected all the Criminal Minds TV series on DVD, and I asked him, have they ever thought about putting that show out on Blu Ray? Because the show is shot on film, and then it's shot on film and it's shot in 1080p. Apparently, CBS and Paramount, the only Blu-rays that they release are the Showtime titles. Sorry about that. Ran out of memory. So, where was I? Criminal Minds. Yeah, in terms of CBS DVDs, if it's CBS producing the show, you will only find it on DVD, unfortunately. The only thing that they put out is on Blu-ray. Now, if you see a CBS show on Blu-ray, it's because they are not producing that show. Example, Big Bang Theory is on Blu-ray. That is a Warner Brothers production. Person of Interest, that is a Warner Brothers production. If it's a show that CBS is producing, CBS Paramount is producing, they won't put it out on Blu-ray. It'll just be a DVD only, unfortunately. And they have a lot of good shows, but I think what they may be trying to do is because they know people will buy them and they'll do it cheap. And when it comes to they want all their premium stuff like Showtime and stuff like that on Blu-ray, which that also includes stuff like the Comedy Central stuff. However, I did forget one movie to throw in here. Of course, the other two fall out. And it is the franchise collection of Dragonheart, which there's two movies. There's the original theatrical movie, and of course a direct-to-TV or direct-to-home video sequel, which is horribly made. But the first one's really good. Sean Connery voicing the dragon, and visual effects by Industrial Light and Magic on the first one, while the second one was done by some second-rate effects house, and it looks pretty bad. I think the sequel was meant for the Sci-Fi Channel originally. So yeah, so there's the haul. Sorry I rambled a little too long. That's why there's that glitch. I had to empty out the memory on the phone so I could go on a little bit longer. So, from me to you, see you later.